Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador with K80Y TV, and here's a version of Good Morning Port Hueneme. And we have, again, the good pleasure of having Jonathan Sharkey, who has now just been elected mayor of City of Port Hueneme. So, John, congratulations on that.
Thank you. I was elected to the city council one more time.
Okay.
As we tape this, I'm about to be rotated out as mayor. So I'm on my last week as mayor.
Wow, and it's just a transition, and I gotta apologize. You wear so many hats. It's just
well, it's hard to keep kind of keep straight. I mean, that was one of the reforms, if you will, when we had a new majority come in 1994. Mm-hmm. We'd had Doral Wright had been mayor for 20 years, and then Morgan Carpenter had been mayor for 8 years, and they both are mayor emeriti. And when Bob Turner and Tony Vellante and I joined Tony Young on the council, we decided we'd do what the other cities in the county do and rotate the mayoralty. Mm-hmm. And we've stuck to that. And you get 1 year as mayor and you rotate out, and believe me, that's enough.
It sounds like enough. I'm exhausted just hearing about it. No, that's really good. I know this was really an interesting, at least for me, election year. With obviously some topics that
mm-hmm.
were rather controversial and extreme, both sides, if I may say, and saw a lot of heard a lot of information, but saw a lot of strategy, a lot of communication. But what would you summarize how the election went? I mean,
well, there was a lot of outside money that came in. There was $100,000 was spent to get 1,600 votes, and I'm looking, around in other areas as well, and,
mm-hmm.
looking what's happening. We know, in our country today, corporations are people, money is speech. We're used to having lobbyists write the laws in Washington and in Sacramento, but I don't know how many people caught the news, but up in Richmond, in the city of Richmond, in the Bay Area, Chevron Oil Company put $3 million into a city council race.
Wow.
And in Santa Barbara County, they had their local Measure P. There were something like very close to $8 million came into that race. So in $100,000 in our race, it's becoming, that whole big money thing is filtering down to the local level. Mm-hmm. And I think that ought to be a cause of concern for some people. Mm-hmm. I've been in touch with Salute Carbajal, who's a supervisor in Santa Barbara County, about this. I've talked to Tim Flynn and Oxnard a little bit, and I certainly had a chat with Steve Bennett, who mm-hmm. authored the county finance the campaign finance law in the county. And the problem that we have now with the famous Citizens United ruling in the Supreme Court is that if you can't control outside expenditures. Right. You can set a limit on what a candidate can collect or what can be spent on a ballot measure, but you still really can't control the outside expenditures. And that's a cause of concern for a lot of people around the country. Mm-hmm. I think just with the lessons of this last campaign, I think I'm looking very closely at the county ordinance and see if maybe we can adopt something like that in our city. I'd like to bring that forward. Because it's never been an issue in our city before, but when you get that kind of expenditure, I mean, that's not a tough campaign, that's a back alley mugging. Mm-hmm. And our side, my side, was outspent 35-1.
Interesting. It's how much per? What's the math on that? You spend that much money on what you said, 16.
The 1,600 votes now that they got, they spent.
So
overall, you add up all the both the reportable and non-reportable expenditures. They were somewhere over $100,000 for that.
It's amazing. I feel like in some ways I'm interviewing the head coach of a Super Bowl winner because this was quite, again, the match. Mm-hmm. And some talented people on both sides. Let's acknowledge that. And the conclusion one. So you won for the leadership position. Some of the causes. Like I said, now we just deal with that portion of it. But what are some of your plans? You had mentioned to me before the interview that you're kind of like, okay, what needs to get done now? But can you address?
Clearly, the thing that that I really wanted the campaign to be about, it was our infrastructure needs. Mm-hmm. A few years ago, we rebuilt our entire wastewater system, mm-hmm. And made it more efficient, and new pipes and all of that. You will recall, a couple of years ago, we had a major water main break down at Ventura Pleasant Valley Road. We've had other breaks in the line. Just back in the spring, that whole thing in LA at UCLA. Remember, the whole campus got flooded out because. So this is a major issue around the country, and it's something that we really need to get on. And we did have to spend some of our reserve funds on the issues with the beach protection and all that, but we still have the money we've been saving up to do this. Is we're going to have to get on that, and that's actually a number one priority is to rebuild our water system. So
that's definitely a priority of things. Now we have two new members. We have Tom Figg and then also Jim Hensley. And so if you're talking about from the optimistic side, it's like there's new blood, new ideas. Is that going to be one of those iron sharpens iron, makes it better, so to speak, you think?
Well, it's interesting, and the lesson that you learn, and the first, one of the first lessons I learned when I walked through that back door at City Hall was that how little power we have.
In perception,
a small city is a lot like a small business.
Okay.
We have, we've got the state and the sitting on us, and the feds are sitting on us, and we have all these rules and regulations we have to follow, and we're up against income and expenditures just like any small business is.
Right.
And we all come in. You run for office because you want to do something. You have great ideas, you want to get things done, and then very very soon you hit that reality wall. And you realize that what we can do as a small city is in fact very limited, and so we have to work within those limitations.
Right.
That's in some ways, this is Robert Forrest's definition of art. It's like it's creating within boundaries. Working against your limitations and trying to be creative. We do need, Fort Miami's always needed to be creative. We don't have the kinds of capacity to generate the revenues. If just something as simple as freeway access. Camarillo has an outlet mall over there right on the freeway.
Right.
When we get into municipal finance in California, with sales tax being the most important thing, we just don't have that. So we have to be a little more creative in how we operate.
Right.
That's something that hasn't changed, and we are going to have to deal within our limitations and try to make things work as best we can.
Right. What would you say about how important it is for the city council and you as mayor to be able to collaborate? I mean, what new behaviors do you think you're going to have to bring into the dynamics of this new group?
Well, I'm rotating out. Sylvia Munoz-Schnapp is going to be the mayor, who's probably the perfect person for this because she has a wonderful temperament and is very good at getting people to work together.
I agree.
The city council, there was a old-time city council member in Santa Paula named Al Urias. I don't know if you remember him.
I do.
Yeah, he was a great. And when I was first elected, and I was the new guy around, he was one of the first people that actually kind of took me aside and helped me out. And he said, "Look, don't worry. This is a very simple job. All you have to do is be able to count to 3."
Basic math.
Yeah. So. The city council is not like, and I said this during the campaign, it is not like the U.S. Congress or a parliamentary system where you have parties battling it out, you have one side and the other. It is, in fact, all about working as a team and collaborating. You've got to get to those 3 votes, yes, but most of the time, the kinds of issues that we're dealing with, and this is the great thing about local governments, I've said before, it's all about practical problem solving. It's not ideological.
Yeah.
We've had over the years a wide range of political beliefs on the city council, from the far right to the far left, and yet when you come down to the street level, that stuff doesn't really matter that much. It's about how are we going to get the job done? How do we keep Fort Miami a livable place? How do we fix our water system to make sure that the trash gets picked up and the wastewater gets processed, and all the practical management type things that cities have to deal with. So when you get down to that level, the ideological differences don't really matter.
Right, right. It's an interesting thing. So I got to apologize to Sylvia, just the fact that I respect you. Please forgive me for making that faux pas.
Yeah.
But one of the key elements that I'm sure people will be interested in is the two big entities in the Port Hueneme area is the district and the base. So are there going to be like new and different ways that you reach out? Because again, is that something that we have to collect ourselves and figure that out? Or?
Well, our relationship with the base has always been good.
Okay.
I'm our city's representatives on the Regional Defense Partnership. We work very closely with all the commands on the base, and there are about 90 different commands, 87 different commands or whatever. We work closely with all of them. We are the political pivot point, the liaison that goes back to Congress and goes back to the Pentagon and puts the political pressure on, deals with our congressional representation, in advancing the cause of the base.
Right.
Those progress is sometimes hard to measure, but I can point to the Littoral Combat Ship Support Facility that came from our base. That's something that we advocated for a long time. There's 600 really good jobs that came with that. So on that level, I mean, we deal with the base very well. We have never had any problems dealing with the base. It's always been a very cooperative relationship with the base. That's one half our city, for heaven's sakes. And about half our population is either retired military, active military, or military families, including my own. Of course, my son's left the Navy for the Air Force, but that's a different story.
For a different segment.
A different shade of blue.
Okay.
And as for the Harbor District, we are, unfortunately, we can go back to, some of the dispute. I mean, I was one of the people that was there when we negotiated the 95 agreement, one of the things that's under dispute right now. And I was the guy that really wanted to have the alternative dispute resolution clause in there, the mediation clause, or the arbitration clause, excuse me, in there. I've got a certificate in mediation from Ventura College of Law, and I still am a big believer in alternative dispute resolution. And it was, admittedly, some of the shortcomings have come to the light in the last few years of that process. But our intent was that arbitration should apply to all the agreements. And when we got into a dispute, we said, okay, let's go to an arbitrator. We selected Judge Stone. A lot of people know, Steve Stone is
That's respect.
one of the most respected people around. And the Harbor District decided they didn't want to do that, and they got a judge to separate out the previous two agreements from the 95 agreement. Okay. And they filed three motions, the same motions twice. The judges ruled that the revenue sharing should be subject to arbitration. And on the third bite of the apple, there was a judge that said, well, no, it's, and he came up with a very narrowly crafted ruling that separated out the revenue sharing from the arbitration. So now we have two conflicting rulings. That has to be resolved somehow.
Okay.
So that's what the current dispute is. And right now, as we speak, we're in the process with Judge Stone to look at the payments that we get for the automobiles that transfer across the street. That's a much smaller component, but there are some issues with how that's been calculated as well. So this process is underway.
Sounds like it's definitely in motion. Now, one of the relationships that I learned in this election, excuse me, is how key the relationship and the collaboration between the city council and the city manager, in this case Cynthia Haas, is. Do you see that collaboration? How does that going to improve? Because really, you're keeping the city manager accountable to who she hires, and you really can't influence the people behind her. But how do you see that relationship improving this next term?
Well, I hope it does. I hope it doesn't get worse. It's been excellent so far.
Good.
You remember, the city council. There's only three hires that the city council actually makes: the city manager, the city attorney, and the auditors.
Right.
So it's kind of like being a big baseball fan. I mean, you had George Steinbrenner, who was an owner who sort of micromanaged everything.
Right.
Or you could have somebody that says, "I'm hiring you because you can do a job."
Right.
And I'm not going to micromanage what you do.
Right.
The city manager is responsible for everybody underneath and all the other staff. the city council's job is to set policy on a global level. We're the board of directors. She's the chief executive officer, if you will. So, her job is to carry out the policy that's set by the city council. Tom Fagan just coming on. He served in city government as a staff member. I think he understands a little bit about the relationship there. There just seems to be a lot of former staff people moving into office now. Bill Little,
some experience involved in this, and so I got to say that this seemed like a really great team. I have a lot of respect for Cynthia and what she's going to do, and considering how fascinated I've been with your marriage for some reason with Beverly, is the techniques to staying married so long. This apply a bit to, running a city?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It took each of us a while to get it right because we each had previous experiences. But when we were courting, she asked me the question, which was
just one.
how do you see a marriage? How do you see being married? And I said, well, I think it's a team. I think we need to support each other. I think we need to work together. And and that was, from what she's told me, I was the only one that ever got that question right.
Yeah, we got the winner.
So that worked. Fortunate for me, I think I got the better end of the deal. No question.
Humility is a big part of it. I was thinking of a name, how you combine it, and I'm thinking Johnnerly, combine Beverly with Jonathan.
Right. Yeah,
so congratulations on both, your success in being a leader in the city of Port Hueneme, and then a big shout out to Beverly, and it's the fact that what a great support she is. And I just think we got a winning staff here in the city of Port Hueneme, and I think you'll agree that we got some good things to look forward to. So any last comments?
It's just, Beverly's way more famous than I am.
It's always that debate. Call 1-800 and put your vote in terms of who is more popular. Push 1 if you think Jonathan is. Push 2 if you believe that Beverly is.
Well, I wouldn't be here without her. we can say that for sure.
Well, I feel the same way. So shout out to my wife, Elaine. So thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm just an honor to know you and to support you. And with that, I just say this is Peter Godinez, the ambassador of KDY TV, with another great version of Good Morning Port Hueneme. Until next time.
Good morning.